Hey, how are you guys doing today? Welcome back to another week of Kingdom Builders Business University. Where are they now? I am super excited to come to you today to bring our special guest. Oh my goodness, an amazing KBBU alumni. We're going to be talking about all things mental wellness and health. Okay, we're going to be talking about it from a different perspective that you probably have not heard before because it's not a lot of conversations out there about what we're going to discuss today. So let me bring to the stage. Are you ready? Listen, let's give a round of applause for Miss Calvette Long. Yay! Thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Calvette. Yes.
Hello.
Hey. Oh my goodness. I am so excited to have you here today. Super ecstatic. Now, I've been knowing you for quite some time, but let's get a proper introduction and tell the world about who you are and what you bring to the table.
All right. I am Calvette Boyd Long, and I am the founder of Kingdom Inspired Kidz, LLC. It is a camp and a hotline and basically a podcast for parents and children that have ADHD and ADD.
Woo!
And also a
Woo! That is
KBBU.
amazing.
I am a KBBU graduate, so I've known you for a long time, and so I am honored to be here today.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, y'all. I am so excited that she's here because this is a long time coming. I'll try to tell you. So, Calvet was one of our original KBBU students when we decided to go during COVID, all virtual. And she was one of our original KBBU all virtual students. So, we got a lot to talk about. So, let's dive into just the past before you came to KBBU. Tell us a little bit about your journey growing up and, anything that you would like for people to know about your life as a person.
Okay, so I am a person who doesn't share a lot, so this is definitely something that's different for me. Um, I grew up in a household where you can't what happened at home stayed at home. So
All
this
right.
is definitely a God-given assignment for me to be open, to be an open book and be able to share. I am from a little bitty town in Texas that has probably about 1,500 people. I think my
Whoa.
graduating class had about 112 students that graduated, and we were considered one of the largest classes that had come through my school. So
Oh
really,
my God. Time out. Wait. Now, I thought that my little town was the only little town because I come from a very small town as well. But I had no idea, Kevin. You're telling me something that I didn't even know about you. A small town of 112 graduates?
a small town is that
Whoa. Wow. I did not know. Now, my graduating class had 62, and that was a lot as well. So
okay.
I
So
love it.
my town was so small that they combined the two. So it wasn't just Linden, it was Linden hyphen Kildare. So they put two towns together for school. And it's
My
still that way
goodness.
today.
What happened?
And it's still that way today. It's still Linden Kildare.
Wow. Oh my God. That is so amazing. You know what? We did the same thing in our little town too. They combined the elementary with the middle school. And so we went all the way from kindergarten through the eighth grade. I'm sorry, through the seventh grade. And eighth grade was actually in high school in our little town. So I totally understand and I can definitely relate to small towns. But let me tell you something about small towns, y'all. It's great things that come from small places, okay? Great people. I'm talking about people that have, took over nations, that have been inspiring people from all over the world come from those small towns. So thank you for sharing that. What else do you have to share with us today, Calvin, about your journey as a person?
Very small town. So in that small town, there was not a lot of talk about mental health.
Okay.
No one talked about that when I was a kid. We would see there were a couple of children that I knew growing up that had some disabilities, but it was not something that was discussed.
Yeah,
Didn't
I
know a lot
bet.
about it. Didn't know a lot about it at all. And just from being in retail, I've been in retail management for several years. Being in retail management, there was one company that I worked for where I was on the board of directors for children with disabilities, or well, disability advocacy network is what it was called. And
Okay.
so during that journey, when I got to that job, I asked myself, like, what in the world am I doing here? Like, it's like everybody has an issue. Like, what in the world is going on? And God was like, you have someone that has that issue that's around you too. And so that's when I really realized that I had a passion for not only the parents, but the kids, because some of the people that I worked with were adults. They weren't
Oh,
teenagers, they were adults, and they had disabilities as well. And just trying to watch them and help them navigate through everyday life sometimes was a challenge. And so
yeah.
that's when I really realized, I was like, okay, this is something that you need to do. And I still didn't realize it, in that deep. I didn't realize it was that deep, that in depth for me. And so then the next position that I had, I was in a place where they didn't really hire the highest quality
Hmm.
candidates for positions, and so they wanted to know why they struggled with turnover, and why they struggled with just everyday tasks. And it was because a lot of the people, they didn't understand, but I had that experience because I've been around it for so long. They didn't
Whoa.
understand that there were people that needed some help or needed to be directed differently, that learned differently, and they didn't understand that. And so it made it really, really challenging. And I was kind of the advocate, like, they need some help. You need to understand that not everybody learns the same way. Some people need a list because they forget. It's not that they don't want to do what you want them to do, it's just that they might need a list. So that kind of helped me get into where I am today. And just being around, living around that, the ADHD and the ADD has really been, it's a challenge.
Oh,
It's a
yeah, I'm
challenge.
sure.
It's a challenge. And I think that this is not only not, I've heard it before, but this is not only for the people that need to hear this, but
Hmm.
growing up, people didn't talk about it, and it has been something that is so silenced. And I was like, you know what, I'm bold enough, I've got enough God in me that I can open up and just be transparent and talk about it and be able to help heal myself while others are healing as well.
I love that. Now, that is exactly what I was just thinking. Like, let's go back to when you were growing up. Was this something that you were conscious of, or what was your experience with mental health problems in this arena of ADHD and ADD? What was your experience like growing up? I know we all want to say that, because I know our culture, different cultures grow up different ways, but collectively we're all connected. And I realized that in every culture, no matter what background you come from, you said a key thing, and that is that we don't want to discuss our private matters with each other. So when we are quiet, we don't have the opportunity to express what it is that we are dealing with mentally. We don't have the opportunity sometimes to even speak. Sometimes we don't have someone to talk to. Sometimes we only have maybe a friend or two here or there. What was your experience like growing up as a kid?
So growing up, we, like I said, we didn't talk about it. And I remember there were two students specifically. They talked about special education at school, but there were
Okay.
two students specifically that had some mental health issues, and nobody talked about it. You know,
Wow.
the thing you used to hear back in the day was, people being mentally retarded,
Oh
but
my goodness.
no one talked about the mental health and like how do we, because as a kid, like how are you supposed to, be a true friend to someone that you don't really understand?
Right, right.
Or even them growing into an adult, how are you supposed to, you gotta know something in order to be a real friend to someone, because if you don't know what's going on with them, you don't know how to help them or what they need. And even being a friend, like you've got to be supportive and you've got to, love on them. And even when you're having a conversation, you want to make sure that you're having that conversation, whatever you're saying needs to be said in love, because we don't want
Hmm.
to hurt people either. So growing up,
Right.
there were two students that I remember specifically, and no one really talked about it. It was just kind of like, stay away from that kid. But you know what I
Ah,
found out? Now that I'm older and I've been around some of my classmates and spent a lot of time in my hometown the past couple of months, what I found is that some of my classmates, so my peers, have had children that are ADHD, ADD, or kids with all kinds of mental health issues. And because we weren't
wow.
exposed to that and we didn't talk about it as a kid, then now we're adults that have had to try to figure out how to navigate. And being in a small town, there's not a lot of resources. So how do you help? How do you help?
Right, exactly. Did you yourself have any challenges with mental health growing up yourself?
I think that growing up, I have an older sister and we're 8 years apart. So I think
Whoa,
with my sister being so much older than me and me, it was kind of like being the only kid for the both.
exactly.
Um, I don't remember hearing anything or experience anything like anxiety. I didn't know that that
Hmm.
was a real thing. I just, growing up, we were told you you spank the kid, they don't do what you're supposed to do. They're jumping around, they're all over the place. You spank the kid. That's not the solution. But as far as growing up, the only thing I had was asthma. I don't really remember having any kind of challenges with my mental health or anything. That didn't come until I got older. And
Oh.
that's when I found out this is real.
Oh, yes, it is. It's very real. And I can testify to that myself. So, yeah, so you came through and you had an experience with, you remember having the experience with some of the students that were a part of your class and didn't know what was going on, probably tried to talk to them and be friends with them, but just not understanding why do they act differently than what you would act, and that could be a very big problem for a kid trying to figure out, like, maybe this person just doesn't like me, or feeling like, I just don't belong. Because I know that those are the questions that popped up in my head along my childhood journey. And I also grew up in a household, in my grandparents' household, where there was, there were no conversations about mental health. It was just, you had to work, you had to earn money. If there was a problem, like you said, spank the kids and move on about your life. And that was it. So we come from a silent generation that really didn't talk about not just mental health things, but they didn't talk about anything. It was just do, do, do. And when you come from a era where everybody is just silent, it's really difficult to try to process anything in your brain, like how you're supposed to go about different situations. Something as simple as, I remember coming from the country, and coming from the country, originally, we were taught not to necessarily, I'll give you an example, take showers. That wasn't something that people did in the country. You just take a wash off, take a cloth and just wash off. But as I grew into adulthood, just something that was so simple for the rest of the world was something that was so difficult for me to change because I wasn't raised that way. I was raised to the point where, yeah, you clean yourself, but you clean yourself with the in the sink with the water and the soap. and that was good enough, and you go on about your life. You wash off, literally. They call go wash off. That's what they called it. So I can only imagine, growing up, what that must have been like for you to have those friends and not really understand like why we cannot be friends. Like you said, they had different kinds of challenges than what you even knew about. So let's pivot for just a second. I want to know a little bit about your journey of becoming an entrepreneur. So, in your journey from childhood, growing up into adulthood, and you started to realize there were some mental health issues surrounding around questions that you probably just didn't have answered, right? But what led you into wanting to be an entrepreneur?
So here's something else that you didn't know, Michelle. When I was in high school, I actually wrote a whole business plan, and
What?
I had planned to be an entrepreneur all along. I wanted to be my original goal was to be a fashion designer. So I love fashion.
Oh
And I
my
used to
God.
really, really, really love fashion. And so that was the thing. I wanted to be a fashion designer. You know, I wanted to be I have my own boutique. That's something that I always wanted to do. And I actually wrote out a business plan. So here we are. I won't say how many years
Wow.
later,
It's okay. They
doing the
already know
same
my
thing,
age.
doing the same thing. So I did. Originally, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always
Wow.
wanted to be an entrepreneur. But what got in my way was fear.
Oh, let's talk about it, honey, because that's something that every single one of us have to deal with in this journey of being a business owner or thinking about being a business owner if we haven't even gotten started yet. So that's
Yes.
amazing, though. I just want to say, wow, you really did shock me on that one, Calvet, because I did not know that you had a business plan in high school.
I
Come
did. I did.
on.
I did.
Come on. So you went from high school straight into the workforce. Is that how it happened?
No, I went into high school. I mean, leaving high school, I went to college. I got my degree in fashion merchandising business management. And
All
so
right.
that whole dream of, this is hard work. I don't want to be an entrepreneur anymore. When I thought about like started looking at that business plan 2 years later, into college, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I really want to be an entrepreneur. Like, where am I going to get all of this money from? How am I going to
Oh,
get the merchandise? Where am I going to put this building? And so I started thinking about those things, and I let fear get in the way.
man, I tell you, that fear will really ruin your life. But we don't have fear in death, we have fear in life. So we should never be afraid of dying
Yeah.
because ain't no fear in death. Okay, once you're gone, you're gone. But this fear in life will paralyze your life. It will take your life all the way down, shift your whole destiny. It will do some damage. So we really have to think about as entrepreneurs, whatever the fear is, we just have to do it even though we are afraid. That
Right.
is the key principle that I have learned over the years, that even if I was shaking like a leaf and I didn't have any clue of how it was going to turn out, I still needed to just go forward even though I was scared. So that's what I would have to say about fear. So you were scared and you decided to shift your whole journey of fashion design and all of that, even though you had gotten a degree and went to college and did all of these things. So what happened next, Calvin?
Then I went into the workforce. So I became a retail manager, and I talked to myself for years, and I said, well, you went to school for what you're doing. So it's okay. And
Wow.
because sometimes you hear that, oh, you went
Yeah.
to college? What did you go to college for? I have a friend that went to college for criminal justice and is doing something totally different. And so you hear that a lot. Well, what was the point of you going to college if you're not doing what you went to college for? So
Yes.
I did. I kind of talked myself into that. I talked about it all the time. I made the excuse of, yeah, well, I went to school for this. So it's going to be okay. Like, this is what I went to school for. I went to school
Right.
for business management. I went to school for fashion design, and I'm doing that being in these positions. So I've been in retail management for some years, probably about 35 years.
What?
I've been running other people's businesses, making those companies money,
Oh my
sacrificing
gosh.
my family and my time, and now it's time. I was kind of forced into being an entrepreneur this time. I say that, but everything happens for a reason,
Right.
and sometimes, well, not sometimes, but our plans are not God's plans.
No, they're
His
not.
thoughts are far above our thoughts. So there is no
Exactly.
way in the world that everything, God has a specific time, place for every single thing. And so I just believe that my journey to being an entrepreneur and my all of those years of experience that I've had at all of these different companies, and going from just being an hourly manager to a salary member of management to a district manager, I just believe that those were baby steps. Like, when I go back and I look at the journey of where I am today, is it
Yes.
uncomfortable? Oh, it's absolutely uncomfortable, because you know what? I have no one to blame except myself if this is not if I'm not successful in what I'm doing, right? This is me and
Woo.
God. And that's who has been on these jobs. It's been me and God, and I go back and I look at some of the places that I've been, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Or if I
Woo.
didn't get that job that I applied for, and then I go back and I'm like, oh, that company went out of business. Like, God is so strategic in the
Woo.
things that he does, that it's like when we pray and we say, God, not your will but my will, or we say, God, order my steps. When I tell you that I see his hand, how he's ordered my steps from this
Woo.
place to that place to that place to that place, and then I watch at what I did at each one of those places to see how my previous boss would say how I left my footprint. It's so funny
Woo.
because as a boss, people have really, sometimes I've been misunderstood, and
Yeah.
being a boss and going back and seeing those people is like, oh my gosh, I wish you were still here. I don't, because I want God to order my steps. And so
I love
going
it.
from being an hourly manager or a little supervisor, to an hourly manager, and then to a salary member of management, to a district manager, um, it's all been a part of his purpose and his plan. And I even asked God, I said, a lot of people say you can't ask God questions.
Yes,
We
you
used to
can.
hear that growing up. Oh, you don't question God. I got questions. This lady has
Yes.
questions. I got questions and I want to know. And so I asked him questions, and I'm like, okay, so what was I supposed to learn out of this? And even my last job, I said, God, why did you allow me to go to that job?
Mm,
Why did
mm,
you
mm,
even
mm.
allow me to go to that job? But you know what? I had to see corporate America. And when I saw corporate America, I really saw how things really were. And I'm telling you, like, it was a feeling that I had when I was just an hourly manager or a little shift supervisor or store manager. I saw, I felt a lot of things, and it made me uncomfortable. But when I got to corporate America, I really saw how it was. And I was like, yep. So all along, that feeling that I had, that's exactly what it is. So what it's taught
Wow.
me is, it has taught me what to be and what not to be as a business owner.
Love it. Love it. So I just want to pause for a second, Calvet, and just address the audience. Listen, you might be out there and thinking, like, my God, why do you have me on this job? I'm so sick and tired of working for these people. They nasty, they rude, they are, they just sometimes they wishy-washy and they don't follow through with what they say they're gonna do. You might be thinking of all these things and you trying to figure out, like, God, I just don't understand. But I love the fact that you showed the journey of the story. The story had to go this route so that you would understand how to be the entrepreneur that you are right now today. If those things had not transpired on those jobs, then how would you have learned the skill, the gift, and talent that God has inside of you to pour out in your own company? So, listen, if you are watching us and you are in business, or you are in business and you got this idea that you want to expand your company, but you work in a job, just hold tight. Just hold tight and keep on listening to this story, because we got something to tell you at the end. Okay? All right, we can help you. We can make sure that you get to where you are going. That's what this whole life is about, is understanding that we're all interconnected in some kind of way. So, Calvet, you went through this journey where you went into the workforce after college, and then you started thinking about, okay, you doing this for somebody else. So I know along the journey, I don't even remember how we met. Do you remember how we met?
I do. I do.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
tell me, because
do.
it's been so long.
I do. I have a friend that lives in Colombia, and she had actually, they weren't living there. We used to work together in Texas, and
Oh,
she and her family moved from Louisiana to Columbia. And she said,
that's
"Hey, there's
right.
this lady you need to talk to. She does credit. She repairs credit." And I had been through a divorce then. I had a whole lot of stuff going on then. And I was like, "Oh my God, I need to talk to this lady." And it's like we just clicked. And I don't
Yes,
know,
we
you
did.
guys didn't talk for years, but like we clicked, and
Yes, we did.
and we've been talking for years. So
Yes,
that's
yes.
how we met
Okay.
each other.
Yes, I remember now. I don't know what I was thinking. I do remember she did connect us, and you guys are still friends too to this day. And
Yeah.
her and I, we kind of we still talk every now and then, but you and I, it was something that was destined for us to connect even on a further level. So definitely, guys, if you are out there and you're listening, don't discount the relationships that you make in business, because she came in as the person who connected us came into my credit repair program as well. And that's how you and I connected, Calvet. And then we connected on a whole nother level. And then you end up telling her, like, hey, you need to go to her business school. I remember that. So tell us a little bit about what your experience was like in the credit repair program, and then how that led into the business school.
So credit repair, I want to say this. I want to pause and say this before I get into credit repair. It's amazing that I wanted to be an entrepreneur in high school. So
It
age
is.
17, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I spent 40 years going the long way around, and I didn't have to.
Ooh.
So I wanted to say that because it's the same. The desire and the urge that I have now is the same as it was when I was 18, 17, 18 years old. And I have
Wow.
that again. So I just wanted to share that.
I love it. I love it.
As far as the credit repair side of the your business, credit repair was really good for me. Now, if I had listened, because we have to listen, right? We have to listen. So if you get into a credit repair program, you need to listen. You need to listen. Because I was in the credit repair program for a little while, and some of that was like I said, I had been through some things and had some financial struggles and opportunities, and so going through that program was really successful for me. As a matter of fact, right now I've got like 3 people that I referred to the program that are in that right now. And
Yes.
so it was a really good experience for me. It was a challenge, but what I hear when I talk to my sister who's now in that program, she's just like, "Oh no, Miss Michelle said we have to do this, this, and this." And so seeing she's seeing some success in it, and she's really happy because, like I said, we're 8 years apart. She's never
Yes.
done anything like this. And so
Wow.
this is different for her. For her to see how it helped me and then to do it as well, that's a blessing. I
Yeah.
was able to do some things while I was in that class. I was able to purchase my home.
Purchase
Um,
a house, baby. Y'all
I
hearing the words
was.
that are coming out of her mouth.
I was able to purchase a home. The community that I now live in made there was an article that made the news and the newspaper at one point, and it talked about how people of color were being denied the opportunity to purchase a house. It was more difficult um, for a person of
Wow.
color to purchase a home. And I thought, that's crazy. That is not true, because
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of people of color that have homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you and I kind of started that journey, I don't know if you remember this, there was a phone call, and I called you and I said, Michelle, we've done everything. Like, what else do I need to do? These people are not approving me. And you got on the phone. You said, put me on the phone. Give me his number. Put me on the phone with him. And I want to talk to him because I want to see what else you need, what is going on, because we've done everything we can do on this side. You got on the phone with him, and you listened to him, and after we hung up the phone, you said, give me about 30 minutes. She said, but you said, because this is not true. Um, what he's saying is not true.
Mm-hmm.
You are able to get a home. And I remember 30 minutes later, you called me back and you said, there is a place. Here is the name and number. And 2 hours later, I was approved
Woo!
for a home.
Jesus,
And even
girl.
though I'm in Texas and you're in South Carolina, the people that you referred me to were actually in Houston, which is like 4 hours from me, 3.5, 4 hours from me. And that same mortgage company was in Houston, and I was approved in 2 hours. And I was like, this
My
ain't
God.
nothing but God.
Nobody.
Nothing,
Nobody.
nothing but God. So it was a
Woo!
it was a blessing.
I'm telling you, you giving me chills, and it's about the story. You telling the story about what I did, and I'm over here getting chills like, okay, like on somebody else that you're talking about.
I don't
But
know if
thank
you
you.
remember. I don't even know if you
I
remember
do.
that.
I do remember that as you were sharing the story, I remember every single detail because I was furious because I knew that you were in the right position. Your scores were like close to 700, right? 700, somewhere in the range. It was very close. It was very high. And there was no reason for you to have been denied. They were just playing games with you.
Yeah.
They were really playing games with you. And I'm so glad that we moved forwards and everything was approved so quickly because I knew I was like, I was furious. I was like, that's not right. And whatever ain't right, you better believe Michelle Green gonna fight for it. Okay?
And you
Just as
did. 30 minutes later, I got a phone call and you were like, here's the name and number. As a matter of fact, you gave me the name and number and you had them reach out to me. You didn't even have me call them. They
that's
called
right.
me. And 2 hours later, I'm telling you, 2 hours later, I was approved. When I tell people that story, it's just kind of like they don't really believe it. And I'm just like, girl, you better go get your credit fixed with Michelle Green. And then I tell people, even if they don't, even if you're not looking to buy a house,
Right.
it's just good integrity to have good credit. And even,
Yes, it
I
is.
mean, things happen. Life happens. Life has happened
Yes.
since then, right? Life happens. And if you need to go back, then go back. Just
That's
make sure that
right.
you don't make the same mistakes that you did the last time. So,
That's all. It's a growth process, even for my own journey. And I am known as the credit lady, especially back then. They used to call me the credit lady. But even for my own credit, there's fluctuation. When my mom passed away 2 years ago, I kind of just let things go myself. So I had to go back and go through my own program and take my own advice, to make sure that everything was where it needed to be. So totally understand. You came from, like you say, you were coming from a divorce, you had some struggles in life, being a single parent at the time, and then you were able to get a home, and then in the future went on ahead and got remarried. Hey, I ain't gonna tell your story. I'm gonna let you tell it. So you bought the house, and then I don't know how we even got to the point of the business school, but I do remember reaching out to you and saying, hey, Calvette, you need to come on over here. I'm starting this business school, and I want you to be one of the first people that's in it, So you want to share a little something about that opportunity?
So I went to KBBU and I started the business courses, and then I think my biggest focus was I was selling paparazzi jewelry.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I had started selling jewelry, but even before then, I'm also a certified event planner. So I had G&G Ribbon. That was my company. I'm super proud that I had gone and gotten my little, I think it's a ADA or ABA, whatever it is. Assume the business. That's what it is.
Yes.
Assume the business name. So I'd done that. And so I got my EIN. I was super excited about it. And in the process of that, I was selling paparazzi jewelry as well. And I was still working. Like I still had a full-time job, but I was looking for some additional income, because nowadays your 9 to 5 is just not going to do it. Just a regular
No, it's
9 to 5.
not.
You have to have
Won't happen.
multiple streams of income so that we can create generational wealth. And I think I started that class, and I was going through the class, and I went through the class, I graduated, and then you had it again, and you were like, hey, you need to come back for a refresher. And when I went back, God gave me this whole other vision of what I should be doing. And I was like, God, you not talking to me. You
Yes, he
know,
is.
I'll say stuff to God like, oh,
Oh,
you got jokes today.
you.
You talking to me? You got jokes.
Yes.
And he was definitely talking to me. I remember asking myself, I was at work, and I remember asking myself, why do I have to deal with all of these people with all of these issues? And God said, you have somebody in your house, and people have to deal with that. And so why not you? And
So
I
let's
said,
talk about it. I want you to tell the world about what happened after that. Like, tell us about this business, Lord, because you get me all choked up over here.
so Kingdom Inspired Kidz is the name of my business. And it is Kingdom Inspired Kidz podcast where parents talk.
Woo! Yes. I'm gonna put your information on the screen. All right. Tell us a little bit more about what it is that you're doing in detail, because I'm telling y'all, it is millions of you out there that are struggling with this arena. And when she drops this information, y'all better be writing this information down, going to her YouTube channel, signing up for her, because I'm trying to tell you, we are going to need her. I know I needed her back in the day because I had these same situations. But Calvette, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm just super excited. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and tell them what it is that you do.
So, Kingdom Inspired Kidz, we are located in Dallas, Texas. You can email me at info@kikidzllc.com. You can call me at 866-454-5439, and you can follow me on YouTube at Kingdom Inspired Kidz. So, Kingdom Inspired Kidz is a podcast right now where parents talk. I remember my journey. I remember taking my kid to the doctor, and I was almost in tears that day. Okay. I'm a big crybaby, so I get real emotional, and I was almost in tears because I wondered, I was like, oh my gosh, so what do we do? Because I feel like a lot of doctors, like, they just want to medicate these kids, and that's it. I feel like they just want some money. And I don't know that medicine really helps all the time. Well, I know that it doesn't help all the time because everybody's different. Everybody's body is different. But I remember asking the doctor, I said, hey, is there a support group for these parents? Because I think he's deported. And the doctor
Yes.
said, he was like, no, I mean, maybe like if you're in a city or something, but no. And I was like, I heard God say, that's you.
Woo!
That's you.
Woo! So what you're telling me is the Lord told you that you are the solution for the parents going through having a child with ADHD or ADD, attention deficit disorder. You are the solution for having a conversation, a hotline that they can call and just let their hair down about a child that they are over there pulling their hair out for because of the stress and the problems that they go through every day that other people don't understand unless they have a child that has ADHD or ADD. My God Almighty, I tell you what, honey, if you was around back in the day, and I would have gave you all my money. You hear me? All my money just to have a conversation for somebody to understand, because I remember having this problem when my daughter was 2. The problem started to occur, and I was like, a lot of us are like, oh my God, we don't want our kid to be the one with the issue. And so we get to a point where we are embarrassed and we don't want to be around the people who we love and that love us. And we don't want to be around any friends. We can't take our child because we know our child might just act out. We don't know what's going to happen at any given moment. And to have the opportunity to have somebody to talk to, Calvet, back then, my Jesus, Lord, I would have gave anything for somebody who would have just understood my situation. So tell us a little bit about your experience with the ADHD and the ADD.
Listen, I have both. And my daughters are probably going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she said that in public. Right? Because
Right?
people's society makes you think that it's not okay. But where
Yep.
parents talk, we are going to discuss it and be open with it and really transparent about it, because that's the only way you can help each other and that's the only way you can heal yourself. And you
That's it.
become more self-motivated, and your children can become more self-efficient, sufficient, when we understand and we can share it and we're comfortable with it. So I have one daughter that is ADHD and I have one daughter that is ADD. And
Mm.
listen, the difference in the two, it is totally different. One is super high focus. If she's watching TV, she's super high focused and she doesn't hear you call her name or say anything. And then I have
Really?
another one, yeah, super high focus, like on what she's doing. So she doesn't let anything else just like she's right. If she's watching TV, call her name 20 times.
Wow.
Nothing. And it's like,
Wow.
go shake her. Hey, did you hear me? And then I've got another one that is full of energy. You go to the movies with her, you might see the movie and you might not, because she talks the whole time. So two different experiences, right? And so I've had that with both. And I can just tell you, having children that are different, and if you're listening to me, um, social media wise, right? The audience, if you're listening to me, there have been times when I haven't been able to go to family functions. I couldn't go to on the cruise. I couldn't go to the weekend vacation. I couldn't go, well, who's going to keep your kids?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
well, they're always misbehaving, or there's the stares where people are
Yes.
staring because they're waiting for your kid to act up, or even their own family saying, oh, well, she can't come to my house. Oh, well, she
Right.
can't come and stay with me. Oh, no, she embarrassed me. Oh, no, she almost got me kicked out. And so it doesn't just affect, it affects the kids, but it affects the parents too. So this podcast is so parents can talk about it. And so we can be real and help and support each other. But it has been
Mm,
a journey.
mm, mm, mm.
And it's hurtful.
Girl. It is, because I'm over
It's
here about to
hurtful.
cry right now. Because
It's hurtful.
it is. It is very hurtful. I remember the last event that I took my daughter to. I have two daughters as well, and I also have other children now. But back in the day when I had my two daughters, and we would go to a function, and the last event that I chose to go to in their childhood was it was my niece's birthday party. And when I say my daughter went up to this child and just slapped the fire out of her, I mean just slapped the fire out of her. And I was like so embarrassed, and everybody was like, I don't know why you even came, because you knew that your child was going to act up, and it's always a problem when we can't never have any fun when you're around. And those are the kind of things that happen when you have a child that is different.
Right.
Those are the kind of things that people are not very open to understanding, because they think that, oh, well, you just need to stay away. And honest to God, it kept me away.
It
From that
definitely
point,
will.
from that point forward, I did not go to any other functions. I did not go to any other place. I wouldn't even ask anybody to watch my kids unless it was like my grandparents way in the country. And they were really the only ones, or my mom way in the country, you know, to ask them to watch my kids. And they were like an hour away from where I live. So I would have to take the sacrifice of driving an hour away from where I live just so I could have a breather. Other than that, the only breather I got was when they were at school or in daycare after school. That is the only breather that I got, because my one of my daughters, it started at the age of 2, and it progressed on until about the age of 12. By the time she was 12 years old, she was on like 7 different medications.
Wow.
And guess what I decided to do? I decided to just take her off of everything and just deal with it. And to this day, you would never even know. You would never even know there was a problem. I'm not telling people to do that, to take their kids off of medication, but I'm just telling you what I did. Because I was just like, you know what? If I really trust God, I'm going to trust him for this. And that's exactly what I did. And yeah, it was rough. Let me tell you, it was not a piece of cake. I was calling. I was up at the schoolhouse every day, every day. FMLA was my friend. Okay. And then I moved and I got married and all this other stuff. But this is not my story. This is yours. But I'm just sharing with you how much I can relate to the parents that have the struggle. And Lord have mercy, what I would have given to have somebody to talk to back then. Woo!
It is a struggle. And even, even me, like, I'm grateful that I did have the jobs that I had at that time, that I was salaried, because there was a phone call from the school, or it was this teacher that couldn't that. And for me, I just want to say, like, publicly, if you're a teacher and you have this problem with your kids, where your students, where you know they're always busy, or they're not focused, or whatever, their symptoms may be, because everybody's different. I think there's like 10 different kinds of ADHD at this point. um
Whoa! I didn't even know that. That's
yeah, there's all different levels of ADHD. So I won't say different
my
types, but I
God.
will say there's different levels. And so if you are a teacher, and it's so important for our educators to understand, you've got to get some additional training so that you understand these kids, because it is so unfair to a child or teenager that is going through these things. They didn't create themselves.
Right.
And I can just tell you, I think the reason we might not have heard of ADHD, ADD when we were younger is because it wasn't a thing. It was probably, the symptoms were there, but there wasn't a name for it at that
Right.
time. And you think about all the red dyes and like the different foods and all the preservatives and like all of this stuff that our kids are we're eating, that affects them as well. I've been doing all kind of research because I just wanted to know like why,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
why, and why are we acting different, or why is this, or all those things. So I asked those questions, but educators, you gotta get some training under your belt so that you understand, because children are not like they were when we were growing up. And
No, they're
my
not.
mom's 83, Michelle, and my mom is
Wow.
in very good health. And I mean, this lady works all the time and she's full of energy, and she takes no medicine at all, none, nothing.
That's
I don't
amazing.
even think she takes a vitamin. And
Oh
she
my
says all
goodness.
the time, I think it's a lot of this stuff in this food that we eat, and it affects things, and it does. All of
It
this sugar,
does.
like, and processed foods. But you were saying earlier, you took your daughter off the meds, and you said, "Hey, if I trust God, I'm gonna trust God." I think about this, in the garden when God created Adam and Eve and he put them in a garden, right? He gave them everything they needed to live off the land. And what
Yes.
I'm seeing now is more people that are looking for natural things in place of medication, because you can get a prescription for anything.
You can.
But what happened to, you think about it, back in the day when we were kids, our parents, grandparents weren't at the doctor's office all the time.
They
I
were
don't even
not.
remember my dad having a doctor's appointment until like I was in college. And that was like the eye exam and all of that stuff. I don't remember any of that. So think about those things. Educators, get you some additional training, because these children are not the same that they were back then. And my mom says it all the time, well, the same thing that worked back then will work now. The same thing will work in some cases, but not in all cases. So you have to get
True.
some additional training so that exactly what's going on. And then parents, you got to think about, what am I feeding my kids? Do some research, start looking at natural foods and herbs, and you know I'm from the country, so people have there's farm life for sure. And Michelle, I know
Yes.
you came from the
Yes,
country,
I do. Yes,
but
I do.
there's
I was raised
there's
in the.
farm life, natural things.
Yes.
What the cow is eating. What
Right.
that pig is eating, because you're feeding.
Correct.
So you got to think
Correct.
about it. And then raising, your fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. Gardening,
Right. I was
right?
just talking to my 100-year-old grandmother, 100 years old,
Blessing,
about
blessing.
her and her garden just last night. Okay. Because that's all she talks about. She lives with that garden. It is something about the garden for real. It's not just Adam and Eve were placed in a garden by chance. Everything that God does is in order and alignment with how we are to live an abundant life. So I love that analogy that you just gave about Adam and Eve. And it is true. Being raised on a farm, you firsthand really eat from the land. And if you do, you are healthier. And we got to get back to that. We really do have to get back to that in some capacity, one way or another. I do agree. Yes, awesome. So I done got caught up in this conversation with you, like we are just talking, just shooting the breeze on the phone. But we are live here on Where Are They Now? And we just wanted to bring to you this amazing KBBU alumni, Miss Calvette Boyd Long, and her new business. Listen, if you are not connected, or if you know someone, if you're not connected with us, first we want you to get connected. So first off, go to her YouTube channel at Kingdom Inspired Kidz, and it's right there on the screen. So you can literally just click the screen and go to her YouTube channel, follow her and listen to her podcast, because she's going to be dropping some conversations. Lord have mercy, I might even be on there because I have something to say about my journey with having ADHD and ADD with my kids. So I definitely have some conversations that I can share with you about my experiences raising my kids and not really understanding a clue of what to do with my own children. But if you are a parent who is struggling with your kid, you need to talk to Miss Calvette. You need to call her at that 800 number. That's going to be our hotline for us to call and be able to talk to her as a parent and tell her all about our troubles, and we can share and we can grow and heal together, y'all. That is what this whole journey is about. Now, Calvette, are there any last words that you would like to share with these billions of people who are watching you? Anything at all from the entrepreneurial perspective, from KBBU, or from any perspective, your businesses, what is it that you would like to leave with people today?
I really want parents to be encouraged and don't feel like you're by yourself, because so many times you feel isolated. You know, you can't take your child here, you can't take them there. You feel isolated, like you're all alone. You are not alone. I'm
That's
right there
right.
with you. You are not alone. Michelle is right there with you. We have been through this. I can tell you, having a child that is ADD, ADHD, listen, these are some of the most creative people that you will ever meet in
Yes.
your life. They are
Yes.
super smart people.
Mm.
They are not what society says about them. They are super smart, super smart. Um,
Yes.
my one of my daughters, I mean, great grades, super smart, is not even 18 years old and is talking about multiple streams of income. Michelle,
Wow.
she's been through, I mean, you would be amazed just to have a conversation with her. She's been through, like, walk through the room sometimes when we've been in class, and she's heard some of the things that you said about business, and she
Oh my
listened in on one class. But just the impact KBBU has made, I mean, in just her passing by. So just listening to her, um, she's 16. She talks about multiple streams of income and like how am I going to be successful? And so we're learning how to navigate through some of those things. So I'm grateful to KBBU, just for that, and then just for the elevation for me to finally step out on faith. I remember you called me. I'm gonna leave the audience with this. I remember you called me and you said, Calvette, God has not forgotten about you. You are
That's right.
supposed to be in this class. I got in the class and I was not the best student this go around.
But that's
And
okay.
when I started experiencing turmoil on my job, I said, Michelle Green heard the Lord and
Yep.
told me that I needed to get busy and get about my father's business, and I didn't. And so I want to
Mhm.
say that as well, because I do know that you're prayerful, um and you want to move in God's order and in his time. So that I love about you, and I'm glad that
Oh, I
you
love
are
it
prayerful and
too.
that you hear God, because that's the first thing that came back to my mind was like, she told you this,
I
and
didn't
she
even remember that.
told you this because this is why. So I remember it reminded me of like the strategy that God has. And so if I had done it then when you told me to, I think class started when, in August, September, was
Yep,
it September?
August.
August. So it wasn't August. If I had done what you said in August and I had listened to you, we would be further along than we are now. So I'm gonna say, just go ahead and make sure that you listen, when you're in KBBU, follow the instructions, because the business setup and the whole process, is really awesome, and Michelle plans it out. It's very strategic
Oh,
in what she does and the people that she brings on. And parents, just don't think that you're alone. I want there to be a platform where I can be open and honest, and where parents can be open and honest, and you can feel the love when you pick up the phone. I don't want you to feel like, "Oh my god, I'm having to call this hotline." I want you to say, "You know what? Tell you get, you know what? That's all right. I'm about to call this hotline because I need some support, and we're going to get through this." And it's not always medication. And I'm just
that's
being
right.
honest. It's not always medication. Sometimes the kid just needs to be understood. We want to be positive with these kids and make sure that our kids know that they are loved and you guys are loved as well. And thank
I
you for
love
your
it.
support, Michelle.
You are most welcome. Oh my gosh, I am so emotional right now. I just want to hug you and just give you a big old hugging kids, girl. I
Well,
am. Ooh, this
well,
has been
virtually.
amazing. Oh, virtually. Yes, yes, yes. All my love, all my love. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Calvet, for being here today. You have really inspired some, not just kids, but you have inspired their parents today. I know you have. So, listen, if you are watching, make sure that you pick up all of her detailed information. Give her a call and see how we can all help one another. All right, Kelvet, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it so much. All right, everybody, that's all we have for today with Where Are They Now at KBBU. We thank you for watching. Make sure that you are subscribed to the KB.Michelle Green YouTube channel and that you follow us everywhere because we are on Roku TV, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Droid TV. We're pretty much everywhere. And if you are an entrepreneur or you're thinking about entrepreneurship, go ahead to our website. That's www.kbbullc.com. And we would love to help you get your business together too. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.